Discovering the Truth. I'm Fahima Mahomed, your host for tonight, as we are going through different challenges that new Muslims face in our communities today. They are also from around the world, as we have had guests globally, which we are really, really happy about. We are obviously representing Sincere Community Services, and it's a platform for new Muslims, existing Muslims, as well as anybody who wants to learn about Islam. All the information will be provided if you want to join our platforms in social media on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, as well as Facebook. And for more details, please visit our website on www.findtruth.co.uk. Today we have new guests and another topic, and I would like to firstly introduce my guests for tonight. We have with us tonight Sheikh Rashid. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. How are you?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, sister. Fine, alhamdulillah. Thank you very much.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you again tonight. Sorry, I thought I lost you for a second with the connection, but inshallah we should be fine. I also have with us as well a lovely guest. Her name is Sara Michael. Assalamu alaikum, Sara. How are you today?
Wa alaikum salam. I'm okay, thank you. How are you?
Very well. Thank you so much for joining us today. I want to talk about today, which comes with regards to halal food, distinguishing halal from haram. It is something that we obviously, as Muslims, we recognize as being part of growing up and eating in a particular way and distinguishing it. But I think we need to give a little bit more attention, as we know that it is such an important part of our deen. And we need to address this again, especially for the new Muslims, and also the challenges that they may face when it comes to, deciding and also having different family members in the same household or visiting their families who are not Muslim. So there's lots to talk about tonight. I also want to remind the viewers that this is a live calling show. If you have any questions or comments for my guest, myself tonight, please do call in. The number should be at the bottom of your screen. Before I come on to you, Sara, I want to first speak to our chef for tonight. Thank you so much again for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure. When it comes to halal food, Chef, we do hear a lot that our way of cutting the meat, or the way in which we are distinguishing halal, is regarded to be cruel. It's regarded to be something which a lot of people do have a lot of comments about. So we want to distinguish, what does it mean when we say halal food?
Thank you very much, sister Fahima. I begin in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, and I send the great greetings to the Prophet Muhammad and all the messengers who came before him, and greeting to all the brothers and sisters and all the viewers tonight. This point is very important, sister Fahima, especially when we talk about halal. Sometimes those people who are not familiar with an Islamic religion, they think, as you have clearly mentioned there, they think that we are so cruel when it comes to eating, especially meat. However, when we talk about the concept of halal, there are two things there which we need to understand. Number one, as Muslims, also we believe the members of Abrahamic faith, meaning Jewish community, most of the Christians, maybe not now, but before, and we Muslims, we all believe that when you eat meat, you need to make sure you eat that which is clean. And before you eat the meat, you have to make sure you slaughter it. You don't just kill it the way you want. Slaughtering in order for the blood which is inside the body of the animal to gush out, so that the meat, when you eat, it doesn't have the content of the blood which can become harmful to your body, your spirit, and so on and so forth. So when we slaughter the animal, we mention the name of God, that we want to make sure what we eat, we connect with the creator of this animal which we are going to eat. So we can use the word blessing. We want to bless the meat before we eat. And another thing which is very important, in terms of halal, when we say the name God and then we cut the if we can call the reins or the area where the blood passes through the throat, it's to purify the meat. Now, as we understand, when we eat that meat, not only that we have connected ourselves with the God, the Creator, but at the same time, we believe that the meat has been blessed, purified, and then we wash, we cook, we eat. Now, can we slaughter any animal in order for us to eat? The answer is no. So the concept of halal goes beyond the slaughtering of the animal. There are certain animals we are not allowed to eat, even if you slaughter them in an Islamic way. These are pigs, dogs, snakes, for example, and many others. We don't eat them because they are not halal, they are not clean, even if you are going to slaughter them. So on that basis, we go to the Holy Quran. If you look at chapter 7, verse number 32, you can find it clearly that God the Almighty says, I did not make the embellishments unlawful for you. I made it there for you. And the nice food, you can eat that. And in many other places in the Holy Quran. So we understand that God wants us to eat and drink, but we can't eat and drink anything we want. We have to eat that which, according to His wisdom, He knows that these can benefit us, can benefit our soul, can benefit our bodies, and so on and so forth. And on the other point, I have some friends who are not Muslims. When they have tasted the halal meat, they tell you clearly that the taste of halal meat is different compared to that which is not halal. They said, we didn't know why. Maybe it could be the reason that when the animal is slaughtered, the blood comes out, and when you eat it, it is bloodless. But the key point again is that way of blessing the animal before we eat. This is at the moment. Maybe we can add some other points later, inshallah.
Yes, no, absolutely. That's an amazing introduction. Thank you so much, Sheikh. It's really important that we do understand. A lot of us are even brought up as Muslims, and we forget what is the actual reason behind halal meat, and that way of slaughtering the animal and the reasons behind it. And when we hear these kind of controversy and distinguishes which are made by outsiders to say that is cruelty or anything that is harmful to the animal, for example, then there is even science to prove that the actual acid that is contained in the blood is actually quite dangerous, and it can cause a lot of problems in the kidneys, and there's a lot of scientific proof around it. So we do have a lot of sort of evidence to show that this way of slaughtering the animal is actually for your benefit, regardless of the religious factor. So that's really important to clarify, because there are people that want to find out about it regardless. And we also need to understand that eating halal meat, obviously, yes, there's a taste to it, there's a meaning behind it, and for your health benefits as well, which is what I've, just sort of summarized what you just said, which is really amazing. When it comes to the certain guidelines, I'm going to come back to you on this. Obviously, it is quite difficult because there are certain rulings as well that we have within our religion when it comes to sitting beside certain people that are eating things that we're not allowed, or especially drinking things that we're not allowed, and it's not permissible. So I'll come back to you on those questions. But firstly, I want to come to you, Sara. When it was your journey into Islam, I know there's so many rules out there. There's so many things that we have to follow as Muslims, especially as a new Muslim. I know you've been a Muslim for very many years right now, and I'm sure there's still challenges and they change over time. And you being an aspiring chef yourself, I think this is quite a fitting topic, that food is really, really important. So it's really, it's really a pleasure to have you on our show
Thank
tonight.
you.
So how was your journey in sort of distinguishing halal food from haram, and how long did it take you, or was it an easy process for you to sort of, adapt in your daily diet? How did it work for you personally?
So from a very young age, and obviously I knew about Islam, I knew about the halal and the haram. I just stopped eating the non-halal by myself. Obviously, living in my parents' house, it was quite difficult because everything that they bought wasn't halal. So eventually, when I was on my own, I made sure that everything I bought, was okay for me to eat. I stopped eating the things that I shouldn't have eaten. And I just kind of like got used to it. Now I fully understand like what I can and can't have, and I accept it now because it's part of my religion, and even for my kids as well. Everything that they have is halal, and also they understand that gelatine can't be eaten in certain sweets. So they're quite understanding of that. So yeah,
Was it really was it really something that when you were living with your family, or even now, I'm sure you have relatives who are not Muslim.
yeah.
How do you navigate between that? Because I know that it is something that can be quite testing, maybe in your own household and now on your own.
Mhm.
That is something that you have control over. So what
Yeah.
happens when you actually visit somebody else, say family or friends, and they don't actually have halal on the table?
Most of the time, like for example, if I go visit family, like my dad, for example, I'll say to him, I'm cooking, like I'll take the food to him. So at least I know that what I'm eating, I've done it. I know where it's come from. I know what it's been cooked in. But yeah, as well, like I do have friends as well that I go and visit. They know about my religion. They know what I can and can't eat. So they do try and make the effort as much as they can to provide something, to me that I can eat. But it does become an issue because I always like have to explain it. But you're always wary as well. Like, have they got the right meat? Is it okay for me to eat it? Like, if there was a vegetarian option, for example, I'd probably take that just to be
Okay.
like on the safe side.
Yes, no, of course, absolutely. I can tell that it is quite challenging, and I've spoken to many reverts in the past as well. And Sheikh, when it comes to the rulings, it is quite strict, especially how we need to behave and perform, especially when we're sitting on a table. And like I mentioned before, when we are in our own household, in our own settings, we can maybe manage that even if we have, members that are not from our faith or eating with the same habits. We obviously have control. There are some people, unfortunately, that even are not happy about their family members who have actually reverted to Islam. So they don't actually, understand, or they don't actually accommodate. But then you don't want to cut family ties, and you don't want to make it difficult. But it does become more difficult, especially when you've got children as well. So like, when it said, even, we have to sit on a table without alcohol on there. Now if there was a setting, for example, in a revert family, and that is part of the family, it's not in your house, or you're a child, or you're someone who is younger and your parents are doing that, how do you navigate, and what is the rulings then? Because I think this is something we don't really talk about. And again, people are just either thinking it's black and white, and is it really black and white, and how do we navigate around this?
Before coming to that uh, important question, I need to refer to the Holy Quran again, Surah number 5, chapter 5, verse number 3, where we come here into this verse and we see clearly that Allah says, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةُ, forbidden to you as food are dead meat, dead dead animal without being slaughtered. The one who died on its own, you cannot eat that. And then another thing which is not lawful, forbidden for you, is blood, the flesh of swine, that which has been dedicated to other than Allah, the beast strangled, or killed by blows, or by falling to death, or the beast gored to death. And all these things, or the meat which has been eaten by other animal, you are not allowed to go and eat that. So when you look at the list of what we call haram things, haram food, all these come under the haram thing. Now, when we talk about alcohol, in two places in the Holy Quran, clearly Allah says that alcohol is the act of Satan. Don't go near it. Don't drink it. Today, I think the science and social interaction has made it very clear for us to understand that when you drink alcohol, even if you say that it is for minimum usage, you may find that the problems will become many times more than what has been thought. It is very good to say that NHS, for example, in UK have made it very clear. If you go to their website, you can see the harms and dangers of drinking alcohol, even if it is one glass of wine per night, the way people used to say. And when you come to the pregnant women, you can see there are a lot of problems which are going to be connected with the babies who are born if the mother drinks alcohol. So Islam is very clear that this is haram, don't drink it. Now, in our social interactions, if we meet with people who drink alcohol, well, we are not allowed in Islam to sit with them on one table. We can go to the restaurants or hotels where they sell alcohol and sell food which we are allowed to eat halal. But to sit on one table with the people who drink, it means that we support the idea of drinking alcohol, which is haram and has got many problems. Maybe on social interaction also, where if I can sit with my friends and all of a sudden they see me leaving because I don't want to sit with them because they drink alcohol, they may want to know the reasons why. I respect their actions, but also they need to know my point of view. Is because sitting in those kind of gatherings will remove the blessings which we believe are there. And sometimes drinking alcohol, it can make people to make a lot of judgment. For example, today, a lot of cases which we hear are caused by uh, uh, what you call road accidents. One of the major issues is drinking alcohol, using other substances which make the driver to misjudge when they drive. Alhamdulillah, God, thanks to God, He has made it very clear according to Islamic religion that this is haram. Don't drink half of it or more of it, it's haram. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him and his household, he says clearly, anything which intoxicates, whether you use it a minimum of it or too much of it, it's forbidden because it's not good for your well-being.
Absolutely. There is a lot of evidence out there when it comes to it's something really which we need to address, especially when it comes to alcohol. I understand you said that when we're in a social gathering, one of the social gathering are your own parents, and you have got a revert family who is mixed, where one or two members are Muslim, majority are not. How is that then acceptable? And it's maybe not your choice. Like I said, there's a lot of teenagers that are still living under the guardianship of their parents who may be drinking and they're still in that setting. How do they remove themselves? And if their parents are not actually accommodating and understanding and saying, well, this is what you want to do, even if we don't believe in it, you're doing it, but we're not here to change. What do you do then? Yeah.
Yeah, actually, in some cases it's a bit difficult. Let's be realistic, especially for the teenagers who are living under the care of other people and they don't have much choice. Say it. According to the hadith of the Holy Prophet is very clear. Any one of you who sees something which is munkar, something which is an evil being done in front of him or her, he should speak against that. Or he should stop by using the hand. Stop by using the hand, speak against it, or hate it in your heart. So at least we need to try any step which we can do to change the situation. If you can explain to the family members that, well, according to my faith, I don't drink, so I'm not allowed to sit on a table. Be as humble, as clear as possible to explain. Don't violate their rights because they don't know your religion, but try to explain to them.
Yeah.
I understand that in many households, they do care for other people's belief. So when you say, for example, to a Hindu who doesn't eat meat, If the Hindu, you welcome him, please eat meat. He may say clearly, I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to eat. You respect that. So we live in a world where I think this understanding should be there. It should be give and take, two-way traffic. And when we communicate well, there's a possibility understanding can come there.
Absolutely. No, I only just push these kind of questions because there are extreme circumstances, unfortunately, that do exist. But you're right. Majority of the time, families are quite accommodating and they will actually understand. How realistic is this in your sort of scenario or cases around you, Sara, where you've seen these kinds of things that's happening within a family and some people are not actually that sort of like adherent to your beliefs, if not yours personally, but even maybe friends that you have around you? Is food, halal food, a real issue when you're actually coming into Islam as a new Muslim?
Um, yes, definitely. But when it comes to the alcohol, for example, if you're going out for a meal with your friends, they're going to want to order something, especially if they're not practicing or if they drink. That's where the actual problem comes in, because then you have to leave that table and go sit on a different table, which I have done in a few situations. But I have explained, and I've said to them, look, I can't sit with you because you're drinking. They do get upset, even when you explain it, because for them it's normal. They want to have a drink with their meal. So it's hard for them to understand that you can't actually sit with them. But on a few occasions, yes, they haven't had a drink because they obviously want me to be with them on the table. So it's either the drink or I'm going to go sit somewhere else. Yeah, but it's a very difficult situation, and it does put you off actually wanting to go out with your friends and go for a meal, because you do feel a bit embarrassed to be in that situation, that I have to tell them, don't order alcohol because I'm with you. Yeah, so if I can, try to avoid it, then I do.
That's brilliant. What other challenges are there regarding food, especially given your situation that you are, obviously in that industry and field anyways? How do you see it? Even like, say, for example, schools that are providing halal, is it really strict? Are we aware, even as the leaders in the ulama, are they giving even some sort of like knowledge and information and getting themselves involved in the school boards? Because just because they provide halal doesn't mean they're providing it in a way that our children are actually being given it, because maybe they're using the same spoons, maybe the same
Yeah.
dishes, you don't know. So like we did discuss this before the show, what were the problems that we need to raise today so that hopefully we can have better sort of understanding and connection, so that we actually as Muslims take that responsibility to ensure it's not just like a certificate that's been put on there, but the actual preparation, and people that are serving halal who are not Muslim understand the distinguishes, because especially when it's to children.
Well, luckily where I am, most of the schools that I do work in, they have to provide the halal. But like you said, are they following the actual rules? I mean, I think it would be very helpful if people like imams were going in and actually giving them like proper guidelines, and making sure that they are doing it correctly. Because, for example, if they're cooking a meal that is chicken breast, if they all of a sudden run out of their halal supply, are they then going to pop to the nearest shop and just go pick up an ordinary box of chicken? Do you see what I mean? It's like, do they care enough to make sure that they are actually serving halal meat to the children? And I think that is actually a very important issue that, should be raised, and probably they should take more care in what they're doing.
Absolutely. I think it's a topic that we haven't actually spoken much about before, Sheikh. And when it comes to especially our schools and children's, as adults, we might have the knowledge, but are we involved enough when it comes to it? I mean, it's not enough to just have a stamp of halal. It's a whole process, because in your home, you've got clean dishes, it's not mixed with anything. We know as adults, even if we're out and about, to actually, ask these questions. But what are the sort of like ulama, or what are the actual rules rulings that are being taken so that we are actually using halal in a proper format, not just with a stamp and just giving it to anyone to serve without the proper information around it.
Yeah, I think the point is very important to be discussed. We understand that there are two things here. Number one is by laws. There are laws when children, Muslims, or even from the Jewish community, when the
Mhm.
food it says kosher, so the school understand, the board of directors, they know that by law we have to follow this. So now, yes, there's this second point, which is on the ground. Do they follow the laws or not? Do they mix, as Sister Sarah said there? So there are these issues which I think we need to work closely with the schools. And I know there are some imams who go around schools for assemblies and to meet with the head teachers. They speak to them. So hopefully there will be this understanding between the communities where the issue of halal, when it's discussed, is known clearly very well.
Absolutely. And I do know that nowadays it's a lot more difficult, especially looking at the normal ingredients. If you go around the supermarkets, that I find myself personally having to read all the ingredients, even from things that you wouldn't even expect. Like, okay, now we know that even sweets have it, but even certain things like you would think like flour or bread or, you know, certain puddings or whatever it may be that is out there is continuously being contained and contaminated by things that we are not allowed to eat. And a lot of people are like, well, we don't know, so we're not aware of it and it's fine. But do you think that us as Muslims especially, we need to now take that responsibility, that I actually go to the shops and I spend ages not just by shopping but actually reading the ingredients. I'm the one standing there and looking over all the ingredients that's there on almost all the stuff, and even over time it does actually change. So they have whether, and it's quite extreme, it's not just the alcohol, it's the pork as well. So it's many things that we have to be aware of. And I remember even going into one of the supermarkets, and because I was wearing the hijab, so the actual person serving me realized I was Muslim. And you see the importance of actually wearing the hijab for so many reasons as well. She actually warned me. She goes, you know that this contains this. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize, because I always bought it and it's never been like that. She goes, no, because I saw you are like that. And I didn't want to question you. But at the same time, I wanted to make you aware if you actually did, you know, follow the strict rules. So it's really important that, you know, when we do wear the flag of our faith, it does actually save you in many occasions. And I was saved, you know, from eating and buying something that I probably wasn't aware of. So when it comes to food ingredients, Sara, and when it comes to Muslims abiding by the rules, do you think that as new Muslims, they are actually aware? Do they take more interest, do you think, because they are new into the religion? And how do you sort of like place yourself, comparing yourself to the rest of the other Muslims that are just like, well, we don't know, we've always bought it? Because I have heard that once you know, you only are sort of like obligated if you have the knowledge. And a lot of people choose not to have that knowledge and look and make the effort because it's an inconvenience to now realize they cannot have that product or that ingredient. What is your thoughts on this, Sara?
Well, I'm the same. Like as soon as I came to Islam, I had to check ingredients because there was obviously things that I was eating before that I could have, but obviously now I can't. So, for example, if you even go to the shop and you want to buy a mousse, you can't even have that because it contains pork gelatin. And in a lot of stuff, like a lot of things are hidden in there, but you do need to know, obviously, the ingredient that you're looking for. Because on a lot of packaging as well, I've noticed that it doesn't always say suitable for vegetarians. But when you go and look into the ingredients, it does contain some kind of an animal fat. So you do kind of like know, okay, straight away, okay, I can't have that. It is disappointing because they seem to throw it in everything that you really want to have, and you can't have it. And for example, if I'm out with family or with a friend doing my shopping, yes, I am the one standing there reading the ingredients because I want to make sure that I'm eating something that is halal and that is, you know, something good that I can have. So I don't mind taking the extra time to do that, you know, to make sure that it
That's
is okay.
amazing. You did mention you have children. How do you explain to your
Yeah,
children then that they're allowed to have certain things and they're not? Because I know in school, maybe not so much now, obviously, with the situation, but
yeah.
especially when they're younger, I know in the older schools, they don't allow certain things to be brought from home. But when it's, say,
Mhm,
for a birthday, how do
mhm,
you sort of navigate as a parent to sort of, as a for a young child especially, for them to be aware? I mean, okay, firstly, you can inform the school itself, but sometimes
mhm.
children amongst them, between them, they might give them a sweet or something or whatever it may be,
Yeah.
especially these Haribos. So
Mhm,
those are quite famous for like school parties and things like that, or when your children are going into certain settings, say if they're invited even to another household for a party, and they're going to be serving certain things. How, I mean, it's like, again, we as adults, we can really make these choices and choose. How do you
mhm.
sort of navigate? Because we don't always sit in a classroom where it's all Muslim, and then eventually you want to be
No.
able to mix with them outside, whether it's play dates or whether it's parties,
Mhm.
especially. How
Yeah.
do you sort of advise your children and tell them, especially from a really young age, say like 5 and below?
Luckily, my kids are kind of like they're well educated with it, thank God. Since they've been growing up, I've been telling them you can have this, you can't have this. This contains pork. This has got gelatin. So straight away, like when I go shopping, even my 4-year-old, she's like, "Can I eat that? Is it got gelatin?" So she already kind of like knows. It's already like in her mind, what she can and can't have, which I really love. And when it comes to school parties, she usually brings them home, and then I will decide and tell her if she can have it or not. But she knows she can't. That's why she hasn't opened it. Thank God. So yeah, I'm quite strict on it, and they understand it. They ask, "Is it halal? Can I eat this?" And even if they go to a friend's house, I always tell them, "Be careful. Like if there's a different kind of option, have that." So they're fully aware of it, and thank God it's quite easy for me, and I don't really need to put a lot of pressure on them because I trust them and they understand.
Mashallah, it shows obviously with your own belief system and the fact that you're strict, it does filter onto your children, and that's really important when
Yeah.
it comes to raising children. And it does sort of like make it easier because you are that particular way. Sheikh, when it comes
Mhm.
to our children, again, I think it's really important that we do have these sort of parenting skills that, or, being role models ourselves, and we do teach them from a young age, because the food intake is really, really important. It's also not just because of halal and haram, it comes with the whole package. And, halal is not just there as a guideline just to say because we're allowed, we're not allowed. There's a reason behind it, like we said. It's for your health, it's for your benefit, it's for protection as well in many ways. So when it comes to our young children, do you think that we are actually giving them that education behind it, as in halal, haram, or are we actually giving the meaning and the explanation so that they actually will be conscious about what they're doing and not just being afraid of not doing something? Because a lot of us, we practice because we're afraid of a punishment instead of understanding that it's actually for our benefit so that we can continue in the long term in that way.
Yeah, I think we have challenges with our children, especially when they meet with others and they see others enjoying their sweets, and you tell them not to. Sometimes they are disappointed. They come home, they say, "Oh, today there was a birthday for our friend, but I didn't take the sweets." It is disappointing, but I believe children, when we tell them the truth, they understand
Mm-hmm.
regardless of the age. And this should continue. Let us tell them whatever we can manage to tell them according to their way or level of understanding. I know many parents, they don't know the wisdom behind haram. They can just say, well, this is haram, don't go near it. Children listen, which is good. However, we need to find more ways of explaining why, the way the program, mashallah, you and Sister Sarah explaining, very good, that there are harm, there is harm, a lot of harm in terms of eating the haram food, if we can call it. Now, children, they need to be substituted. If we take sweets away, which they don't eat, substitute with that which is halal, which they can understand. Can we now go to another level? Can we make our own halal foodstuffs? Can we make our own for example, sweets, ice creams, and so on and so forth, because halal market is so huge. And those people who know, they have come into the ground to start selling halal food. If you look at all the halal markets, you can see that the market, this market itself, is growing bigger day by day. We need to make stand, especially within Muslim community, to make aware, to bring the awareness that, you know what, we can bring something which is halal and for our children to enjoy. And the business people there who listen and are ready to spend their money for this business, there is a barakah also, there's a blessings which we need. But the first step, we should explain to our children what is halal, what is haram. It is difficult in the beginning for many families, I know, but eventually children listen and they follow. And the most important and final point from me on this particular point is, children need to see the actions from the parents. Why can't you
Yes.
buy the halal sweets and eat with them? When they see you do that, they will follow, inshallah ta'ala.
Absolutely. No, it's very true. And I love the fact that you said that there is a market out there for that kind of industry. And we do find a lot of halal food shops. We do find a lot of Middle Eastern, South Asian, whatever it may be. But unfortunately, they are still only in the particular areas where it's concentrated with Muslim only. So people that are living outside these areas, like myself, I don't live in one of those areas. Unfortunately, I have to travel to buy my halal meat. And now there are more online. But I do find that if you do have something online which is halal, or even in the supermarkets there is a section for halal, it is such, a price difference when you're buying your meat and when you're buying your food products. Unfortunately, we as Muslims need to consider that just because we're providing something for our Muslim people, we need to be also mindful of the price issue, because a lot of families may not choose to even buy halal because it's overpriced, and it's something that we don't discuss, especially when the pandemic even started. The meat shops,
Yeah.
unfortunately, they were the most expensive compared to anywhere, and there was no rule on that. And the Muslims were the ones who were putting the prices 3-4 times more than anywhere else. And this is
If
something
I
we need to call them out.
Yeah, if I can come to this particular point, I'm sorry for
No, no, please
interjection.
carry on.
Actually, just today we had a discussion with some of my students. We were discussing on this issue, and they mentioned this point particularly. Of course, some businessmen, they were greedy and they wanted to take advantage of the situation. I said to the students, know that there is a big punishment within Islamic penal code for the people who are behaving like this. But at the same time, it is haram. How are you taking advantage of the people who are in need in the time of pandemic, and then you overcharge them? But another thing is, imagine now if their licenses would be taken away by the government, and the names would appear of this Muslim and that Muslim and that Muslim. This is shame in our community. They need to be reminded about this.
That is always a question. I mean, we want to reprimand, but sometimes we don't because of the image of Islam. But unfortunately, like you said, it is always the minority that may do this, but they still need to be called out to some, some sort of, recollection as to why they are doing this, because it is harmful to most. And if they don't get sort of like not necessarily punished, but called out, or taken away to a certain extent to speak about this, then they might just continue, and that's why this happens. So it is a paradox as to how we navigate around this, because we don't want them to disappear, and we don't want the name to look bad, because as soon as there's a Muslim name out there, it is obviously publicized in the worst manner, and it does make it like as if it's brushing everyone under the same sort of like paintbrush and stroke. That's the difference. But at the same time, they shouldn't be brushed under the carpet, so that it continues only for the masses as well. So we do need to have maybe some bodies that are in the actual ulama or Islamic leadership, that can go to them and speak to them and do these things. And as you said, you've already been discussing that. So inshallah, there's more, I think, work to do amongst our leaders to take charge, so that it doesn't go mainstream, for example, but they can still be reprimanded in the best way possible. and continue, but at the same time not take advantage over the Muslim population generally, who are actually needing and, you know, giving these kind of like business that is out there, which is needed. Sara, we have come slightly to the end of the show. We still have 10 minutes, but I want to give you both a chance to sort of, you know, highlight some points. We've raised some really important, you know, points right now. And hopefully, inshallah, it's only going to give us more insights as to how important it is to, you know, take whatever we have in our mouth, and it does not just, you know, affect our body, it affects our mind, it affects our soul, it affects the way in which we behave, our performance, everything. Just like when we choose a name for ourselves, imagine what we consume and what does it do for our whole entire body inside. It's the same thing. So when it comes to final points, Sara, what would you like to sort of see, maybe changes or improvements, or what would you like to highlight? We've got about, you know, 4 or 5 minutes before I move on to ending points from the Sheikh.
Yeah, so basically the schools, that's something that really concerns me, because obviously I work in that industry and I'm there a lot of the time. So like, also like, what would somebody do in a situation like if they saw somebody serving something that's not halal and it's supposed to be halal? Like, do you just keep quiet, or, you know, do you stand up and risk losing your job? I mean, what would happen? You know, so
Yeah.
that's something that I would really like, you know, to be looked at and sorted out if possible. And I don't know, yeah.
That's a really good point, actually, because the thing is, even if our scholars and leaders do go into schools, I do find that we do tend to go and, you know, lecture amongst our own
Mm-hmm.
community. We need to integrate into outside communities where there are Muslim children, where they may be the minority in the school, but they're the ones that actually need the leaders to come in to speak for
Mm-hmm.
education of the whole, so that those
Yeah.
minorities are also being given that fair treatment when it comes to serving or, you know, knowledge of Islam. Because I know that our Muslim community, they're very well within our communities. They give the advice, they place themselves in situations where it's within the community. Now we need to spread into different areas, different schools,
Mm-hmm.
where there may even be only a few Muslims, but those are the ones that actually need that kind of knowledge and education. Inshallah, from this conversation, there should be more intervention, and obviously leaders like yourself and scholars with authority and hopefully with more influence, Sheikh, we can actually have these sort of things put in place. What would be your final thoughts before we end the show tonight? You have 5 minutes, so please take your time.
Thank you very much. When we talk about changes and improvement, I think number one, we all need to get involved. This reminds me about a point when we talk about citizens. We categorize them into two. There are those who are active citizens and passive citizens. I think we all need to be active citizens. Let us participate, try to do something which we can manage to do, especially bring changes within our communities and societies. I'm so glad that we live in UK, and UK, you can find all types of people from all over the world, and it is easy to understand. Any British person, you can hear that they eat, for example, Chinese, they eat Turkish, they eat whatever food. So it's easy for them to understand the concept of halal here. And for Muslims, I need to stress this point. When we talk about halal, we need to bring another word, which is tayyib. Halal and tayyib, they need to come together. When we talk about halal, it doesn't mean that you slaughter the meat according to Islamic ways of slaughtering, but also it needs to be clean, pure. Let it be halal and let it be pure. There are some communities I hear, they give a certificate to the chicken, for example, or the goat
Mm-hmm.
from the time it was born until to the time when it goes to the kitchen. They all know the story there. So sometimes it becomes more expensive because why? You can be told the whole story about it. But our brothers and sisters who sell meat, they need to make the environment clean, the environment which attracts not only Muslims, anyone who is not a Muslim. And I
Yes.
know there are some brothers who have started companies which they're appealing, which is very good. Now, the other point is, whatever we do when we talk about eating halal, it should be for the sake of pleasing God. And here, pleasing God, He doesn't need to be pleased, but it comes back to us. Whatever we eat should be for the benefit of our mind as well our heart and spirit. So let us add value when it comes to eating healthy, eating well, eating that which is balanced food. And halal could be one of the way which can make us to achieve that. And finally, children. We should make sure they understand this concept according to the level of their understanding, so that they can grow in an environment where they can know that, okay, I live in UK, but here I can eat halal more than the so-called countries which are Islamic. I may go there and eat haram. So we need to make our children to be familiarized with those kind of concepts, inshallah.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure to have you, Sheikh. And it's an honor to actually have all your knowledge that you've shared with us tonight. And also, thank you so much, Sara. It's an absolute pleasure to have you tonight as well, taking your time away from your children and work. I really do appreciate it. It's really important that we have guests like you to come on board and share your real experience. Thank you both so much. And inshallah, we hope to collaborate again soon. I also want to say thank you to our viewers tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure to host for you. Inshallah, we have taken some information that we can use in our homes. It is important, us as individuals, to actually take the initiative to be part of our school boards and governing boards, so that we can actually have that kind of information to the actual schools that we are having Muslim children's in there. Not just rely on whatever is being set by the school itself. Also keeping our places that we do sell halal food in a really modern, clean sort of way, which is attractive, so that we actually want to buy from these places, is